right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this differential apart. We have the 8/8 aluminum housing differential here, and what's different between this differential and most other differentials is that you have to spread the case with a spreading tool. We've got the adapters. We're going to show you how to set up the adapters, how to set up the spreading tool, and we're going to take the differential apart. So first thing we want to do is we want to set up the spreading tool adapters, and you'll grab this tool, okay, and I wrote 8/8 on it, but this is a T93P 4000 AT housing spreader adapter. You see it's got multiple holes on it. It's got a dowel on it that fits in this hole. Okay, so we'll put it in that hole. I have some bolts, and these bolts are kind of long that we got from Fastenal, but it was the shortest ones they had, and of this particular thread. So we got nuts because these holes bottom out and do not want to go all the way down in there because you'll just pull the threads out. So with these bolts, use the nuts and just thread them in. You'll have one for the other side, and it is the same number. This is the A1, the same number. Same thing on these bolts. I have a nut underneath the bolt so that the bolt won't bottom out. So these are 13 millimeter nut. They don't have to be super tight, so don't strip my threads out. You just want them to be snug. Okay, the next thing you're going to need is the housing spreader. This housing spreader is really heavy. It has some dowels on the here. These threaded bolts are smaller on the inside so that you can put these into the holes of the adapter. If you can see on the picture here, we have threaded bolts here, and they're smaller on the end here to fit through these two holes so that we can spread the housing. And you notice you have a jam nut here, and this jam nut is what you're going to be turning to spread this housing. So you want to set it up to where those fit in the hole, and you have the bolt back here. And I'm going to zoom back out a little bit so that we can see that. You want to have the jam nut here. Now you can go ahead and turn this jam nut until it starts tightening up a little bit by hand. And you don't have to worry about it spreading. You're not going to spread it by hand. And you have it tight, and you want to make sure that you're down in the holes all the way. Fill up underneath. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to set up the dial indicator so that you can tell how wide you're spreading the case. So we have apparatus here, and it's got several different pivot points on it, and it's got an adjustable arm. So this adjustable arm is what's going to move in and out to set it up, and you have a stand base. I should be using hand tools because that's what I require out of the students, just to use hand tools. Don't get a baby Huey tight. You just want it tight enough to where it doesn't move. So put your spreader bracket on once you get that mounted. Make sure you have plenty of clearance. You have plenty of clearance. Take and mount your adapter. Okay, so mount it in the upright position for now, because we're going to have to put the dial indicator and the adapter on. Okay, so this is the adapter that we're going to hook the dial indicator up to. As you can see, it moves. Now this particular one is bent because somebody spread the case too far. They didn't get the tool set up correctly. So I had borrowed this tool from somebody because I didn't have enough. And when I seen they bent this, I had to buy two tools, one for them and one for us. But this tool can still be used as long as we pay attention to where we're at so that we don't overextend this tool. As you can see, that only has that much movement on this tool. So in this tool, you can take a hold of it and you can just slide it in and you can see that it moves. Just want to get that on there, just on the end, and you want to be able to move that, and it's got to move at least 30 thousandths. So this is plenty of room. I've just got it right on the tip of the tool. So that's what we're looking for, is to get it right on the tip of the part to where the tool can move, and it needs to be free like that. Then the next thing we got to do is we got to mount this dial caliper to the holding fixture. So once you get it all set up on the to be able to measure, I'm going to zoom down in here again. You can see that you can do a little test on here and make sure that you can move that. So you should be able to move that because this tip should be able to move all the way in. If this tip doesn't move in, that's how that little apparatus gets bent. So now we're ready to start spreading the case. So we've got it set here at 0. Loosen up the holding part. Now the most you can move this case is 30 thousandths. So you can take your little measuring indicators and put them on 30 thousandths so that you can remember. I'm just going to move that direction. Set that on 0. And lock it down. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take and turn this jam nut. Okay, the wrench that fits that jam nut is 1 1/8. So just take and you start turning the jam nut. Figure out which direction you need to turn it. So I'm spreading it this way. You see it's starting to move. Spreading the case. And the most you want to spread one of these aluminum cases is 30 thousandths, so go to about 28 or 29 and stop. So once you get there, you can just take the tool off, and then you can work on the differential. So I just take the whole bracket off here because I'm going to be using this again later during final setup when I'm putting in the preload for the side bearings. Okay, so at this point you can remove the caps, and I've already broke them loose so it'd be easier for me to take them out. And these are 19s or 3/4, whichever one you choose to use. So here's a note you need to understand when you're taking the differential apart for the very first time. You need to mark the differential, okay? And you need to mark the caps to where you have the differential marked and you know which one goes where. Now underneath these caps I've made a couple of little marks on the caps that match the housing. So I kind of show you this. There's a little T that I scribed in here with a little metal scribe, and I put it closer to one side of the bolt so that I know which way it goes. Okay, so if it was on this side, I made a little T mark over here on this side of the housing. Now it's covered up, so I'm kind of lost at this point, so I don't know exactly where the mark is. So it might be good at this point to scribe me a couple of little lines. And you just use something similar to a knife or a chisel. Scribe you a little line on it. Now this one just has one line on it. It is right here, if the autofocus will come in. Right here is just one little line and it's diagonal. So I got a little line over here, so I'm gonna make a little diagonal line this way so I know which direction this cap goes. Now you can do just about anything. Some guys take a punch and they'll put 2 little pins here on this side, and then on the other one they'll do it up and down on the other side so they can determine the direction of the bolts. The reason you do that is these housings are line bored with these caps, and what that means is that hole is perfectly machined together when this cap is bolted in. And if you change caps, you're going to change the size of that hole or the orientation of where the hole is. It won't match, and then you're going to have problems with your final assembly. So make sure that you mark. Now, you can also use paint, but be careful with paint, because if you use a good solvent, you may wash your paint off and then you're going to be lost. But you want to mark the cap and the case so that you know exactly where you're going back together. So that is a point that you need to remember on any differential that you do. Put things back together the way you take them apart. I lay the caps over here out of the way. Now at this point, some people try to just grab it and pull it out. But you have a lot of preload on there and you might not be able to do that. There actually is a way to do that with a wrench, is you put a wrench on here and you roll the pinion and it'll actually roll that out. And I'll show that in another video. But this one actually just pulled right out. So try to remember where your bearing races are and your orientation of the bearing races, and we'll set them off to the side. Now at this point we can go ahead and pull our shims out, and but there's a complete setup in the book, and we're going to set it up according to the book. So we're just going to take these and throw them back into the shim box. Go ahead and take all this apart. So at this time you can take your spreader back off. So at this point we can take and we can turn our differential so that we can undo the pinion. So this is 1 1/16. I'm going to try, we take these on and off for classroom and they've kind of worn down a little bit. So here's an interesting note. Anytime you take one of these nuts off, you need to put a brand new nut on, and anytime you crush the collar too far or you take it completely apart, you need to get a new crush collar. So at this point we've got the yoke is actually pressed on to the pinion, and we do that whenever we crush the collar and put a new nut on it, so we got to try to get that off. So there is. So I'm Brian McClure. I'm the Ford Technical Recruiting Liaison for the Oklahoma Ford dealers, and I help people get jobs as technicians in Ford dealerships. If you or you know somebody who wants a job or would like to talk to me about this and find out some more information, give me a call, 918-928-7433, or email me at fordoktptc@gmail.com. This is a good job. This is a good career to be in, pays well, it's got you good job satisfaction, job security. You can do this. I did it. You can do it. You can make a good living at it. And this is no joke. It's a pretty good profession. Have a great day.